Welcome to the PDX files. Each week we dive into the weird and the unexplained here in the Pacific Northwest and beyond. My name is Peej.
And then Mac,
Mac, what are we talking about today?
we were kind of getting into some kind of weird stuff that I don't think really um we're both experienced investigators, as you can see from some of our previous episodes, but I haven't really had to deal with a poltergeist before.
Yeah, I don't, in terms of the investigations that we've done, yes. And then, of course, also, like personally, never dealt with a poltergeist either. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, it's called the Rosenheim Poltergeist. It's a very little known. I didn't know. I had to a little bit of research into it, but it's pretty fascinating how it kind of like ties into like the sort of classic poltergeist.
All right. Well, as usual, I have not seen this video, so my responses will be authentic. And here we go.
Following is a paranormal story where a young German teenager unknowingly created turmoil in the office that she worked, leading to positive
Scenes.
negativity. In October 1965, Anne-Maria Schabel started working for a lawyer called Sigmund Adam in the Königstrasse in the small town of Rosenheim, Munich in southwest Germany. Like many teenagers, Anne-Marie was bored, restless, and dissatisfied with her job. In October 1967, weird events started happening at the office where they began receiving unusual telephone calls. And whenever anyone picked up the phone, there would be nobody at the other end. On many occasions, more than one phone would be ringing, and there would be no one at the other end. This in turn was blocking genuine business calls. When Sigmund Adam called the telephone company to repair the service, they could not find any problems or who was making the calls. When he received his next telephone bill, it was astronomical. Then things began to get worse when his office was charged for local calls made to the talking clock. The talking clock was a service that locals would call to get the exact time. The telephone company was charging him for 6 calls per minute to the talking clock. This turned out to be physically impossible, as the time needed to dial the number and then the other end to pick up defied logic. It was when the other end picked up that it was charged for the call. But the telephone company also believed that this was an impossibility. Then problems escalated even further when the strip lighting system began to falter, where the meter would show that there were sudden, inexplicable surges of current.
Mm.
When the local lighting company investigated, they figured there was something wrong with the power lines. But when
But
cabled directly from the office to the generator, the lights continued to explode.
I mean, just off on its face, like that, we have the movie, the movie Poltergeist, and sort of look at that as like a good example of how. Also, we have what is it? What's the other movie? More recently, the Poltergeist, the one that's kind of been in like the like this whole zeitgeist.
I don't know what you mean by more recently, but you're not talking about like the Blair Witch Project, are you?
No, well, no, not that. But I mean, it's like I could we sort of understand as a investigator what a poltergeist means, I guess.
Okay.
It's like there's like lots of things going on like that, and things moving, and it's usually always a young person involved in the kind of environment. Yeah, sort of be feeding off of that, right?
Yeah, and we might have tackled that slightly or lightly rather in a
Pre- Previously, yeah, yeah.
and yes, the general I was going to say rule, but the generally accepted theory is that it's brought on or there's always an association with some sort of teenager and predominantly female.
Yeah, and in this case, it doesn't scream like poltergeist right away. It's like, okay, maybe there's some like some electricals that are kind of wrong with the situation.
Right.
It didn't mean that like there's actually a ghost like causing them to get like higher phone bills. But it's kind of interesting how at least at this stage, that's kind of weird.
It is, and I am reminded of that scene from the movie Ghost, Patrick Swayze, Demi Moore film, where I think Carl was in the office late night and all the phones started ringing, all the monitors started started turning off and on. And it was just one ghost, Patrick Swayze, who was making that happen. And so, and there was no poltergeist girl there. So,
Close, but not quite.
all right, we'll continue here.
Sigmund Adams continued to have problems when the lights in the office continued to falter, where they would rotate in their sockets. The fixture started to swing and the lights were turning themselves off at random. The electrician said he could find no known cause and installed voltage meters to see if there were any power surges in the office. When he checked the readings, he found that the power surges were powerful enough to blow the fuses, yet the fuses were never blown. But the problems did not just stay with the phones or lighting, but they were now affecting the photocopier. Out of frustration, Sigmund Allen decided to install his own generator and then removed all of the strip lighting and replaced them with ordinary light bulbs, but it made no difference. News of the strange events that had been happening in the office had gotten out and had now spread around town and had reached a reporter who came to investigate. As he was leaving the office, a glow fell out of one of the sockets, almost striking him on the head. Two physicists also heard about the strange events and offered to come out to the office to inspect, but after investigating, they were totally bemused and could offer no solutions. The unusual events came to the attention of Hans Bender from the Institute of Paranormal Research at Freiburg in southwest.
He looks legit.
After studying all the events that had been taking place in the office, one of Bender's assistants came to the realization that all of the disturbances appeared to point to Anne-Marie. He observed that as Anne-Marie walked along the corridor, the lights overhead started swinging backwards and forwards. When they researched further into Anne-Marie, it appeared that the strange occurrences, such as the current surges, only seemed to happen when she was in the office. Poltergeist activity started to escalate even further, where pictures would turn on the wall and the lights started to swing in all directions, and a heavy filing cabinet moved away from the wall by itself, yet the linoleum floor that it rested on showed no scrape marks.
I mean, there's lots of ways to look at that. I mean, it matches a lot of poltergeist activity, especially around that age. And this person was very young. It's kind of weird that the Germans were like hiring a teenage secretaries, just separately from that. But that there was a lot of activity going on there. It doesn't necessarily surprise me, and but it seems to me like that maybe it's not. I don't think it's a full match for poltergeist. It seems more like demonic almost. If you're looking at the activity that's actually going on there, like shaking of things, the poltergeists have some of the similarities to that, but I wonder if she was like maybe too past that stage or age, and people who are actually seeing some of that stuff, like, hey, we have no idea what's going on.
Well, obviously, people listening to the podcast will, provide the link to the reference video so you can see what
Yeah,
we're doing right now. But for those watching on YouTube, it's when you're looking at when the camera or whatever, when the video shows still images of the teenage girl, there's a delight in her face. So
yeah, she seems to like it. That's kind of weird. I mean, not like it, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, she's not, at least, obviously this is a snapshot observation, but pun intended, but she's shown like not scared. She doesn't have a fearful, a fearful face. She does not have a frightened face. She does not have any concern in her facial expression whatsoever. And, and it's kind of funny that the premise that was started in the beginning was that she was bored with her, with her job. And I would think that she would not be bored anymore when all of these things are happening and they seem to be pointing at her.
And that kind of, sort of matches the whole poltergeist kind of situation. It's like, it's a teenager like making all these things happen, like on a psychological level and a psychic level,
Yeah.
because they're very not, they're not matured yet to past that point. Where it's like, hey, this is not a good idea. And really, who knows what that gal did mentally to invite in that type of activity.
Yeah, and so I'm just doing a quick Google search, of course. So, I mean, poltergeist activity does come with a lot of physical manifestations, like we said, ability to move objects. So, poltergeist is actually, in this context, a thing. All right, that's an object or a
Yep.
subject here. Poltergeists are known for their ability to move objects, make loud noises, and cause other physical disturbances. There's a possible psychological connection. And while poltergeists are considered ghosts, not all ghosts are poltergeists. Poltergeists are specifically defined by their physical manifestations and disturbances.
Well, and it seems to be very much specifically like, the youngs. And it kind of makes sense because they're going through all that stuff psychologically. So to expect a poltergeist and as guys as old as dirt as we are is not likely because we've sort of seen a lot of different things, right? So I think it kind of makes sense, and it's always short term. It seems like it doesn't really go beyond much more than just a year or two, which is like the sort of distinction between like demonic, which can follow you for years and years and years, versus just like it's just sort of based on a psychological, um, you know, psychic kind of connection briefly as an age kind of barrier.
Right. And I just read over here that poltergeist is actually, well, the etymology is German. Polter is to make noise. Poltern rather is to make noise, and Geist is ghost.
Yeah,
So,
I indeed,
uh, and,
indeed.
and let's not, I guess let's not totally forget the possibility that could be demonic. But let's continue here.
Let's
And
do it.
they decided to do further research on Anne Marie in order to study her personality and find out whether she was releasing strong energy, culminating in poltergeist phenomena. They found her to be extremely tense, mistrustful, aggressive, and unhappy. She was brought up in the country with strict religious parents and a father who was a disciplinarian, and her emotional life was distressing. He found that she had recently recovered from a painful illness that had left her deeply disturbed. When he
Hmm.
carried an ESP test, she had scored high, which showed that she had telepathic abilities. When Anne Marie was out of the office, all of the events ceased, yet the moment she walked back into the office, lighting and equipment failure resumed. Sigmund
Hmm.
Adam had no option but to terminate her employment. Although Anne Marie was able to get another office job,
What?
poltergeist activity happened there, and it
Oh,
appears that whatever job she undertook, the unusual activity would immediately follow, and in some cases leading to serious accidents. In
Hmm.
1969, she married and moved to the outskirts of town and had 3 children, where the poltergeist activity ceased. So it appears that the moment Anne Marie had happiness and stability in her life, her anger and frustration had stopped causing paranormal activity. Hans Bender's research showed that a lot of poltergeist activity emanated from young people, where poltergeist activity would be happening all around them, yet the young person would be totally unaware that they are the actual protagonists. That young people, especially teenagers, were able to create disruptive psychic energy that affected the world around them.
I mean, it honestly kind of makes sense in a lot of ways. And now, whether or not it's like actually like paranormal or it's just psychological, I mean, that age range definitely puts out a lot of that kind of energy. But I mean, I think there's enough evidence to sort of suggest that, maybe it's true. Maybe there is that kind of, connection um, between, we've always kind of thought, at least from our profession, not really profession, but um, that kids have like a really good, like a bead on some of these things. And it's very possible that as you grow older into that sort of realm, not to be an adult, but you're like directly reaching out because of some of the things that you're going through.
right. Um, well, whereas others just kind of go, turn goth and listen to emo music. Some
Yeah.
seem to
Okay.
some seem to draw ghosts that delight in producing poltergeist activity. I don't know. I suppose we could kind of theorize until we're blue in the face right now, but what is definitely out there is what we've talked about in terms of what's normally associated with poltergeist activity. It is rather intriguing that
There's a pattern for sure.
exactly, and that that the poltergeist activity followed her until, I mean, to wherever new job she went until she found happiness, quote unquote, and the poltergeist activity stopped. And and I think that the psychic ability, I think that the video said that she tested pretty high for having telepathic abilities.
ESP and all that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that maybe also plays into it, and also the unawareness element also. I mean, we've seen, or at least I don't know, I'm just gonna speak for myself in terms of like if we were to dive into the Marvel Cinematic Universe for a little bit, or just the Marvel Universe or DC or any of these comic book titles, where the individual who all of a sudden, develops powers, some of them are not even, they don't know that they develop powers, or they didn't know that they had powers. And they obviously, for a lot of them, they couldn't control their powers. They didn't know how it manifested. They don't even want the powers. So there's kind of a little bit of like an adjacency there, I feel like, like if somebody that just all of a sudden through whatever the cosmic soup stirred up, they developed this innate thing that they were unaware that they had the ability to do. No chance, no possibility of being able to control. And then the
Yep.
only thing that was kind of like the pivot point was an emotional change, i.e., from like goth to to happy.
Yeah, I think there's some people that are like clearly have kind of a connection to that realm. I mean, I wish I did. I don't. I have never really experienced anything like that. But the description of what they've done and sort of the caps on the ability to like cheat that game that we've both been sort of involved in, and so I tend to believe that there's something to it. But I mean, what do I know? But I mean, I just think that there's so much evidence to suggest that poltergeists definitely are associated with the younger generation, not just the movies. I mean, obviously, the movies are sort of suggesting that, but and over time, and so you can't really ignore the evidence that's there. You kind of have to like sort of either accept it or reject it, I guess. But I would say people have an open mind would be the best way to go.
All right, for just a little bit of a bookend, are you thinking about The Conjuring? Anything?
Wow. No, that's certainly a pretty impressive bit of evidence, but it's not proven. So
All
what are
right,
you
well,
gonna do?
what are you going to do except for maybe dodge the knives as they fly in the air? So
I just dodged the question pretty impressively.
that's just as effective. Well, folks, if you enjoy this content, please give it a like and share it across your socials to help get the word out about our show. If you hadn't already done so, please subscribe, and on YouTube, hit that notification bell to make sure you don't miss out on future episodes. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.